Hi everyone, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today for our webinar, Reopen Your Business Safely and Efficiently with Contactless Digital Forms and Workflows. My name is Nicole Schmeida. I'm the marketing specialist here at DocuWare. Today's presentation will be done by Michael Gale. He's the Senior Sales Director here at DocuWare. So on the right, you'll see today's agenda. The first few minutes, Michael will cover, what's the challenge at hand, how do you meet those CDC screening requirements for your office reopenings? Then he'll go into the live demo so you can see it in action. And then at the end, we'll open up for Q&A so you can get your questions answered. And I want to thank you again for joining us, and I'll pass it off to Michael.
Hey, thanks, Nicole. And welcome, everybody. This is Michael Gale, Senior Sales Director with DocuWare. And today I'm going to start off with one question for you. What's going to be different when employees start to return to their workplaces, right? And we have a survey here from PwC to show you what some CFOs have said about employees working from home becoming more of the primary sustainable business model. And if you notice, 54% of CFOs no longer view it as a productivity drain. 73% say working flexibly will make their company stronger. CFOs are very confident their company can both provide a safe working environment and meet customer safety expectations, and you see the percentages there. So we have absolutely jumped headfirst into a new normal. So what are some of the changes that are needed when employees start to come back on site? And again, this is some responses from this survey. Notice that socially distant workspaces are one of the things that companies are trying to figure out. How do they deploy this? How do they rearrange desks just so that we can get the spacing that's required? We have changing shifts, right? We might have switched when employees come into work so we don't have everybody coming in at one time trying to do that health screening and part of what we're going to go over today. We might be using some alternative crews to get some work done. But certainly a lot of companies have enhanced their safety measures, including temperature checks and limits to building capacity. Right? And so we know there's going to be a constant state of flux of who's going to be in the building and when they're going to be in the building at any one time. And obviously, there's a lot more information that's needed, right, as we start to enter into the workplace. So what about CDC's guidelines for screening employees and visitors as they enter into the workplace? Are you guys ready? Right? Is your company ready for those guidelines? And today, we're going to show you a solution using some DocuWare web forms and some features within DocuWare that will provide you a swift contactless screening for both visitors and employees when they check in and check out of your building. We can also record all of this health screening information while making sure to maintain data privacy, knowing who's accessing the information, when they're accessing, and how they've accessed that. We can also help monitor some of those building capacity limits, making sure that if we need to have a wait list for people to come in the building, or maybe we just need to send them a notification letting them know that they need to schedule this at a different time, we can do that flexibly with this solution. We can also, for some of those companies that maybe don't have an employee or a receptionist sitting right there at the front door, we can provide you a way to do some self-service checkout with DocuWare. And every single locality, city, state across the nation has some different specific requirements that we need to take into consideration. So what you can see here are the QR codes on the screen, and that's literally what we're going to scan with our phone here in a minute so that we can start to gain access to these forms. And so we're going to walk through this. This is what we would do, right? Employee walks up to the building, and we're literally going to take out our cell phone, and we're going to just scan that code as we walk into the building. We could also distribute this link before time so that folks could fill this out prior to even coming to the building. But what it's going to allow us to do is fill out an e-form that you kind of see over there on the right-hand side. And we've got one for employees. We also have one for visitors. And they can, again, fill that right out on their smartphone. And depending on their answers, right, they can either be accepted and given entry to the building, or they can be refused entry and be told a message, maybe, hey, please call this number, or hey, you're just not allowed to come into our building until you've been able to say no to all of these questions, or until you've reached a satisfactory requirement. Then DocuWare's workflow can actually kick in. So if I fill out this form as a visitor, I can notify the employee that I'm there. So if you, again, are a smaller organization or don't have a receptionist sitting up front, we can notify you as soon as that person shows up to the building. And again, you're going to be able to see that in today's demo. So what are some of the challenges and how are we solving that with DocuWare? One of those biggest challenges is the need to reduce contact between visitors and employees during the check-in process. Well, in this case, if I'm going to be using my cell phone from the parking lot or the front door, I'm not going to be coming in, touching your iPad, using your pens, using your pencils, and I'm not going to be contacting or interacting with your employee prior to knowing that it's safe for me to do so, right? So with DocuWare, again, we're going to use our own mobile device so that we can reduce that contact by just scanning that QR code. Additionally, we need to be able to record that health screening information and make sure that it's in a secure and safe location. And again, we can do that with DocuWare. Maintain an ongoing safe work environment with contact tracing. So that's what this allows us to do is always know who, when, and where was inside of our buildings. And we're actually going to show you a little bit more of the DocuWare interface in addition today, so that you can see how, and here you can see how DocuWare is accessible via mobile phone. It's also accessible via laptop. So depending on how you're going to have those employees check into the building, whether it's at a front door where you've got a computer, or maybe it's at a side entrance where you're really not set up with a workstation, again, you could do that same check-in process right from your mobile device. And you can see in DocuWare how it's a very simple, easy to use interface, right? We've got our document tray, which I'm going to go over here in just a minute, which is kind of where all of our incoming documents come in. We're not really going to be using that in today's demo because we're going to bring the document in through a web form. We also will show you how we can quickly find documents using searches. So if we need to see what employees were here on a certain day or what visitors were here on a certain day, we can easily go in and do that. And then we're going to be using that little button there called Lists, number 4, to, again, organize those daily office tasks. And in this case, we're going to be checking folks in or out of the building and taking their temperature using the lists in DocuWare. But real quickly, we actually want to start off with a poll. And there's going to be, Nicole's going to come back on so that she can introduce this poll to you, because we want to see how you guys are doing it in your environment today.
All right, yep, thanks, Michael. So I'm going to launch the poll question now. You should see on your screen. So, just take a second to select one of the options. So we want to kind of get a feeling for how are you managing your screenings now. Maybe you're still working from home, or you're opening, but you're not addressing it right now, or you're using paper forms. Maybe it's working, maybe it's not, or maybe you're doing something entirely different. So looks like we got a good amount so far. Just wait till we get, so we got 60%. Let's wait, 70, till we get at least 75, and then should be good. All right, looks like we got it. I'm going to close it now and share the results. So you should be able to see, what people are working on right now, or how are they managing it. So looks like a lot of you are still working from home. And then the next one is you're open, but you're not, addressing it right now at the moment. So, all right, well, glad that you're joining us today and seeing the solution that you can get up and running quickly to get those reopenings done. So with that, Michael, if you want to take back and share your screen now.
Absolutely. All right, so wonderful. So we're going to jump in now, and you guys are going to get to see a demonstration of what this looks like. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull open my phone so that you guys can see this. And I'm also going to pull open a sign that I would be using right there at the front door. So that's kind of what this would look like, right? We would have a sign in New Windsor, New York, welcoming you to DocuWare. All I'm going to have to do is please scan the corresponding QR code with the camera on your mobile device. And notice I'm just going to walk up. I'm going to hover right over that visitor QR code. And now I'm going to open that up right on my device. And so as I walk up to the building, or again, before I show up to the building, we can then have you fill out this form. I'm going to say what type of visitor I am. Here, this is just a list of all the employees. So I can just select Michael Gale. We're going to be visiting myself today. So I'm going to talk a little bit in first and third person to try to confuse you guys. So we're going to say first name Michael, last name Gale. We're going to put in my email address and my phone number. And then it's going to start to go into the question portion, right? And as I mentioned, it's also going to let Michael Gale as the employee know that I'm here to visit him. And so We also, by the way, are capturing the contact information so that if we ever needed to follow up with this visitor in the event that we needed to do contact tracing, right, we have their information. But now I can just start to go into the question portion. And this is going to ask me, do you currently have any of these following symptoms? And I'm just going to go ahead and say no, because we want to go in the building today. Are you currently awaiting the results of a COVID-19 test? No, I'm not. Have you been diagnosed with COVID-19 and not yet cleared to self-quarantine? Have you or anyone you've been close with traveled outside the United States? Well, if I did say yes, I just kind of want to show you what happens here. I'm going to say yes to that question. Notice, hey, admittance is not granted, please leave. But if you wanted this person to maybe put some other information in or maybe tell you where they visited so that you can follow back up with them, obviously we can customize this form to meet those needs. But again, I'm going to say no to that question. The last question is going to come up in the past 14 days. Have you been in close proximity to anyone who's experienced any of the above symptoms? And again, I'm going to go ahead and say no. And notice that now I get a little, hey, admittance is granted, please click on submit. Well, I'm going to actually move this form over because I'm going to bring open DocuWare. And when I bring open DocuWare, what you're going to notice is you're going to get to see these lists inside of DocuWare. And right here, I have a list for visitor temperature check. So now if I go back to my mobile device and I click on submit, notice as soon as I do that, in just a couple seconds, the visitor temperature check is going to pop up. And now I can actually go ahead and make this full screen so you guys can see it. And we can now click on this form that has been submitted by Michael. We'll go ahead and just make the display nice so that you guys can view it there on the screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to just go in and we're going to apply a stamp to this particular document. Let me just zoom out just a little bit. I got it zoomed in a little too much there. There we go, maybe 75%, 100% will work. But we have a temperature accepted stamp. And all I have to do is just place that right on my visitor screening form, right? And as soon as I place that stamp and I move away from that document, notice that it now moves that visitor to in the building. And at the same time, I want to show you some notifications that I received, right? Because now that we have the visitor in the building, I'm going to show you how in my email, right, I received 2 notifications. The first notification is, hey, Michael Gale is waiting for you at the front desk. So that way I know that I have a visitor here to see me. But also, Michael got a notification that said, hey, thank you. Please take the time for visiting us today. Please proceed in the building if you haven't already to take your temperature. And we've also presented them back with a copy of their form so that they have that, right? So we're taking care of all of that communication just as a result of that person filling out that form in DocuWare. Now, let's just imagine that maybe we had an employee walk up during all of this, and we can have an employee fill out that exact same form, but this time it's going to be a little bit shorter. So this time I'm going to walk up, I'm going to scan the employee check-in form, and now when I do that, it brings open the form again in DocuWare, and I can go out, and this time I'm just going to select my name from a list, and there I can just say Michael Gale. And now it's going to ask me some of these same questions. So again, do you have any of the following symptoms? I'm going to go ahead and say no. Are you currently waiting the results of a COVID test? No. Have you been diagnosed? No. Have you or anyone been outside of the United States or traveled in the last 14 days? We'll say no. Again, to the proximity, we'll say no. And then do you certify these responses and questions are true and accurate to the best of your knowledge? And we'll go ahead and we'll say yes. And now as soon as I do that, I can click on submit. And notice, as soon as that happens, employee temperature check is now going to pop open to let me know that, hey, Michael needs to see this. And I'm actually going to bring that down and bring that back up so that I can get back to a normal view here. And so now that that's happened, we can now see that we have a temperature check to take. So I'm going to open up that form. And again, I'm going to go right to my stamp to accept the temperature. I'm going to place that right on the document. And now, just like the visitor, we see that we have a visitor in the building. And in just a second, you saw it there in red, we have an employee in the building. What I also want you to notice is how we're capturing this index information right here, right? So that we know who was in the building, what time they were in the building. We can see who they were there visiting so that if we needed to follow up or do any of that contact tracing, we can do that. And so you can see the company name, the person that was visiting, and again, the time in is all captured right there in DocuWare. So let's say now that it's time to check out of the building, right? We have a couple different ways that we could do this. The first way is we could just simply have the employee, if let's say you have somebody working at the front desk of the building, you could just have them provide a stamp right on side of this document, just like you did for the temperature. And so in this case, I can click the checkout stamp. And what's going to happen as soon as I place that on the document, notice that it's going to take that employee and it's going to check them right out of the building. Well, what if we're one of those, a smaller organization that, again, may not have somebody that it can do this check-in and check-out process for us? Well, notice we have welcome to, but we also have checkout. So the same type of a process can happen where I'm just going to get on my phone. Again, I can bring open the camera roll and I can just hover over the visitor checkout. I'm going to make sure I did that, the visitor checkout form. And as soon as I do that, now it's going to take me to a list where I can just select my name. And again, I can see Michael Gale there. I'll bring open DocuWare so you guys can, again, see this in real time, how it works. And notice that visitor that's in the building now, as soon as I click on submit, is going to now disappear from this list, right? So there's a lot of really useful things, both the check-in, the checkout process, the temperature recording, that's really going to help keep your employees safe and visitors safe, right, as they enter into the building. And now a nice thing here is if I need to go back and I need to search for any of this information, it's very simple to do. I can just go over here and click on search, and now I can just bring open a search so that I can go in and see exactly when the employees and the visitors were there. So I can go in now and click on my employee screening form, click search, and again, we can see when the employee was there, the time in, the time out, whether or not the temperature was accepted or rejected, right? And then that same thing is also available for my visitors. So if I go up here and click on search again, then it's going to give me that same type of a screen. In just a second, my touch is being mean, where I can then see the visitor information. The only real difference here, right, is I'm capturing where were they from, who are they there to see, so that I know, right, for my contact tracing, that I can follow up where they were in the building and really, again, who they were there to visit. So if you guys want to see a little bit more on this, we would be happy to do a custom demo. So if this doesn't meet your exact needs, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned again, that's where this can be very flexibly customized to answer or ask the questions that you guys want. And you can see how this same type of a process can be used even outside of COVID-19 for any kind of screening or even forms that you might have your customers use. So I'm going to switch out real quick out of my live demo environment here. We're going to go right back to the PowerPoint. And we're going to talk about one of the use cases that we've had with this COVID-19 screening forms. So this is actually a really large school district that has returned to school, right? They have employees and students and visitors now coming into the building on a daily basis. And while they don't have to do the screening for the students on a daily basis in terms of the questions, right? They just have to take the temperature. Employees and visitors every single day, every time they come in, have to fill out the health form, right? So they were literally having lines of people in the morning waiting to get in the building because they had to fill out these paper-based forms. Well, you can imagine if you're sitting there paying hourly employees to stand in line, that cost is going to build up really quick. So we want to make it as fast as possible for both the visitors and employees to get into the building. So what we do is we actually publish a link prior to entering to the school. They just fill out this form the day before, and then they receive an approval notification via email, right? So this almost eliminates all of that contact time where I might have been standing there for a minute to a minute and a half filling out this form in front of lots of other people in line, to where now all that's having to take place is that temperature check, right? So instead of me having to stand there for 90 seconds just to get in the building, it might be 4 or 5 seconds for somebody to take my temperature, show them my approval email that I'm allowed to come into the building. And again, this provides a mechanism for all of that contact tracing, and again, those capacity limitations that you guys are going to have as well. So just as I mentioned, right, DocuWare can be used a lot more than just this COVID-19 screening process, right? There's accounting, there's HR, which we play very well into. So if you guys don't have systems in place to either do invoice approval or onboarding of new employees, DocuWare can be used cross departments so that you can use it for lots of different workflows and lots of different processes that you have inside your organization. And again, we would love to show you a custom demonstration of DocuWare if you reach out to your authorized reseller. And lastly here, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about some of the pride that we take in the certifications and awards that DocuWare has received.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Michael. So yeah, just to wrap it up, just wanted to end on this note. So I mentioned earlier, you'll receive an email from me tomorrow morning with the recording, the slides, the handouts, and also a link for you to explore, how are other organizations out there using DocuWare? What are their experiences? We have a lot of reviews, that you can read about, see, how people are, having success with DocuWare to solve, any organizational challenge that they need. So I just want to highlight that, and I'll send that in my email tomorrow as well. So, feel free to share that, review that with your team, and you can always come back and, get in touch for a further demo. Then if we just head to the next slide, just to wrap it up. So, you saw the COVID-19 health screening form in action, but like Michael mentioned, DocuWare can do more for, any key process that you need to streamline and automate. We can get it done for you, solve that for you, minimize, any downtime. We just want to, get you going, maximize your productivity, protect your data, prevent any data loss, and just keep everyone moving in the same direction. Keep work moving forward, no matter where your staff is located. So yeah, again, thanks for joining us. What you saw today again was introductory, but if you want to, we want to continue the conversation with you all. If you want to see more, you can request a personalized demo at the URL you see on the screen. You can email us anytime. If you have any thoughts or comments, questions, you can always email us, after today, next week, next month, whenever you're ready, you can get in touch with us. Or if you're already working with an authorized DocuWare partner, definitely reach out to them to get started, especially with this solution you can get up and running in just a couple of days. So with that, we will open up for questions now. Looks like we're good on time. We have about 5 minutes. So let me just pull open the questions here. The first question is, can a temperature and mask kiosk be integrated with the solution?
Yeah, great question. So we have a couple of different partners and customers that are doing that today, and they're doing that a couple of different ways, right? One way is that a mask the temperature screening kiosk can send an email alert, or at least most of the ones that I have seen, when somebody is not wearing a mask or when they get a rejected temperature, right? And that email can then be watched by DocuWare's Connect to Mail platform and then bring that email inside of DocuWare. So that can help us knowing, who the person is and whether or not they had a temperature reject or a mask reject, so that we can communicate that back to the same form that that individual filled out. We also have some partners that have gone as deep. A lot of these companies do publish an API for their temperature kiosks. And in that case, we can, use DocuWare's API to connect the two so that we can then report that temperature back to DocuWare. So great question. Thank you.
Great. Next question is kind of in line with this question. Can DocuWare integrate with other applications, so other IT softwares that I'm already using?
Absolutely. So we have a lot of ways that we can flexibly talk to line of business applications. We have the ability to use a data export tool. So if we just simply need to, create a flat file and ingest into another application, right, we can do that. We also have what's called auto index. That allows us to actually communicate at a database level, SQL and Oracle natively, but anything that's ODBC compliant that has a read-write driver capable of communicating with DocuWare, we can then write data back and forth between those applications, right? So that we're keeping them in sync, or making sure that we update documents in DocuWare with relevant data from your ERP or accounting application. But great question.
Great. Next question is, can this be used for both cloud or on-premises version?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the on-premises version, the only thing that you would need to be aware of is that you are publishing a form to the outside world. So you would just need to make sure that you have an SSL certificate installed on the DocuWare server so that you can publish that form to visitors outside the network. But we also have a lot of customers that choose to do a hybrid option. And what you can do there is actually connect a small cloud system to your on-premise system. And there's actually a lot of other benefits out there to having this hybrid system. But I've had several customers that have used that hybrid model to connect their forms into their on-premise environment. If you have an on-premise environment that you don't necessarily want to put towards the internet. Great
Got
question.
it. Next question is the data that's stored in the solution, can you speak to the security level on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So DocuWare is actually partnered with Microsoft Azure for our cloud services. So Microsoft hosts the entire environment for us. All of the documents and data are being stored in AES encryption 256-bit. What that means is just it's one of the highest levels of encryption, one of the recommended encryptions from the Department of Defense. And it just tells you that the information is going to be secure and it's going to be encrypted when it stays inside of that Microsoft data center. But great question again.
Okay. In line with that, can you see who has last taken an action on a document, like who actually stamps them, or maybe who has viewed or edited a document? Is that traceable?
Yeah, great question. So yes, so when I go in here, if you see the employee screening that I have filled out today, I can actually just click on the history of that document there. And now I can see any of the users that opened or edited that index data right here in a really nice audit trail. So great question. I owe somebody lunch.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, again, everyone, we have a couple more minutes if you want to just type in any last minute questions. Again, you will be receiving an email from me tomorrow morning with everything you need to review and take back to your team. And of course, go head to our website or connect with your DocuWare partner to, learn more. So, we're here. Any questions, any comments, we want to help you and, get you up and running. So it looks like that's all the questions that have come in. Do you have any concluding thoughts, Michael?
No, hey, just everybody, thank you guys very much for joining today. And again, reach out to one of us so you can see more about what DocuWare can do for your business. But with that being said, stay safe and stay healthy and wish you the best.
All right, yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week and have a great weekend. Take care.